the most important thing we can do is to be trustworthy and useful to our audience so that we're building a reputation. We don't need to do a hard sell on people. We don't need to push our products and services. If we're building a reputation where we're top of mind, and when people are ready to do something that relates to our business, we're going to be in play. We're going to be coming to their mind because we've already been helpful to them.
Hello, and welcome to The Right Podcast, your source for inspiration in content writing, marketing, and strategizing. Every week, I come on and share entrepreneurial stories, online writing tips, content strategy help, and more to impact your life and habits as a content marketer. Welcome to the show. First, a brief message from our sponsor. November 2nd, the SEJ Summit in New York City is going down. This is a one-day conference tailored for search marketers that you won't want to miss. Listen as Mail Ohai, the tech lead at Google, walks attendees through using the latest features in Google's mobile search. Plus, there's 10 other intensive sessions and 6 Q&A panels. Use exclusive coupon code EXWSEJ to get 15% off your tickets at bit.ly/SEJ savings. You can grab this coupon code and the link from the podcast recap posted in the show notes. And now back to the episode. Hello and welcome to episode 17 in The Right Podcast. In today's episode, I have Mark Traphagen with me, the Senior Director of Marketing for Stone Temple Consulting, speaker, and author. Today, Mark is joining me to talk about how to create content that builds your brand and SEO. I'm so excited you're here on the show today, Mark.
Well, I'm excited to be with you. Thank you, Julia, for inviting me. You and I go back in online discussions at least a couple years, and it's great to have a new venue to chat on.
Yes, I agree. I'm really excited we did this. So to start out, I would love to hear how you first got started in SEO and kind of what you do at Stone Temple Consulting. So tell us a little bit about that. Well,
I got started in SEO by inventing it.
Oh, wow.
No, I'm not the Al Gore of SEO. I often like to say that because what happened was I was a salesman for a while. I was in sales, then I was a teacher for many years, then a school administrator, and relatively late in my working life, went back to grad school, ended up getting a job with the bookstore, which I quickly learned was dying because of Amazon, like a lot of independent bookstores. But to make it a short story, got challenged by the owner or the manager of the store to try to take it online and see what we could do.
Oh, wow.
And I was fairly tech savvy. I've been on the internet as long as there was an internet, almost, but knew nothing about e-commerce, about digital marketing, about SEO, any of that. And that's why I joked that I invented it, because I stumbled upon a lot of things by trial and error that I thought like I was inventing, but then 5-6 months later I'd read a blog post somewhere and like, oh, everybody does that. But it was just basically learning to set up an e-commerce store, and then figuring out that in those days, this is before social media, so blogs were the big thing. Finding bloggers who were reviewing the books that we sold. We sold books in a very particular niche, and setting up an incentive plan for them to link to us when they reviewed. So basically, that's when I invented affiliate marketing. So I thought. And then I discovered SEO, might be a better way to say it than invented it, because I suddenly not suddenly, but after a while, I started seeing that some of our books were ranking very well on Google, and in a few cases, we were outranking Amazon, which to me was
Wow.
amazing. And I started researching to find out, and realized that we were getting these links on major blogs, many of them which were very popular, and so these were valuable links, and they were causing us to rank well, and that got me digging in deep. So the next step after graduate school was decided that the digital marketing bug had bit, and I wanted to do everything I could to learn more and to get deeper into this industry. I loved it. I loved the excitement of it and the daily challenges and the changes. So I feel like this is finally know what I want to be when I grow up.
That's
Now that I
great.
was 50. So, so I we moved to the Durham, North Carolina area. I talked my way into a job with a small digital marketing agency here, which though small had some at the time had some very brilliant people working there who also were very open to mentoring. And I just sat at their feet and learned everything I could. And started writing a lot, speaking a lot, and the rest was history. In 2013, late in 2013, I got on Eric Enga's radar. He's for a long time one of my absolute heroes in SEO and digital marketing. The kind of person who said, like, I'd love to work for him someday, but I'm probably years away from that. But he thought otherwise and said, I'm looking to set up my first, for Stone Temple now to have its own director of marketing, and we'd love for it to be you. And I said, I would love for it to be me too. So, so there we are.
Wow, that's fantastic. So to talk about Stone Temple a little bit, I love the content that I've been seeing from you guys. Both you and Eric have done collabs on those Storystyle videos, which is such a unique approach to storytelling. So tell me how you came up with the idea to create such fun, unique video content.
Well, we paying attention to what's going on in the digital marketing space. We realized, that's a good thing to do, pay attention. Right. We realized quite a while ago the value of video and the growing value of video, and we wanted to invest in that. Our major inspiration was Rand Fishkin's Whiteboard Friday videos from Oz. They're light, entertaining, but he digs in deep on a digital marketing topic. But it's just with those, it's just typically Rand, sometimes a guest, just standing in front of an actual whiteboard and walking through a topic. So we started out even simpler in the beginning. Here's Why, which is the video the video series that you're referring to, was just Eric and me standing in front of a white wall with really bad lighting and a crude camera and the microphone on the camera, so it sounds like we're speaking in a cave. Those early ones are funny now and kind of embarrassing. But over time, we learned and invested in it. We built our own studio in-house. And our videographer learned a lot and began getting more creative. And we eventually, wanted to be able to add some effects. And since we didn't want to copy the whiteboard format, we thought it'd be a great idea to just be able to put graphics in, like behind us or titles easily. And so we got a green screen background, which allows you to, put things, allows the videographer, the editor later to insert things in, like backgrounds and signs and all kinds of stuff and special effects. Right. But the next part of that, when you're talking about it being a storytelling video, came along just within the last year. And that was from doing research, thinking about Facebook, because we were now, uploading the videos directly to Facebook, realizing the value of that. And the challenge on Facebook is with the autoplay, which most people say is where, the videos come up in your stream and they start playing, but with no sound. Right. And when you realize that when you just see two talking heads, just two people standing there talking, there's not much incentive to click on that to hear it. So we said, realize that you've got to grab people with something visual, because they're first going to see the video before they decide, am I going to click on this and listen to it or actually let it play through. So the little we do these little skits now for those in your audience that haven't seen them, where we dress up in crazy costumes. We always have something kind of goofy going on. And it relates. It's kind of in in the form of a parable or a little story that relates to the topic of the video, and usually just like 20 to 30 seconds long. But it really worked. When we started doing that, we saw our video views on Facebook, jump way up almost immediately. People look and say, like, what are these goofballs doing?
They are so great. They really are.
Thank you. And just another tip for the audience on that. We've taken that a step further recently, in the last 5 or 6 weeks, and this is just, watching what other people do and seeing the effectiveness of it. we now take the time for the Facebook version of our videos. We add captions right on the video. And that is another, again, we saw our video view time, the amount of time that people stay on the videos, jump up immediately after we did that. Because again, because it's the autoplay and there's no sound, if you have captions, a lot of times people will start watching it and the topic draws them in and they stay with it. So it's just another way. So it's just always testing, always watching, for optimizing of ways to improve that.
That's great. And to go into SEO content itself, I love one of your posts on Stone Temple about why good SEO takes time and bringing in your skits. You had a skit of it was a time lapse of you growing a beard, I believe, which was really great.
Yeah, that was a fun one. Sometimes we're doing special effects, and I'm right now, your audience can't see, holding up scare quotes around my head because some of them are very special because we kind of on our budget we do them from the way they were done back to the silent film days. So that's actually where my beard is growing. We actually filmed that in reverse because we had this this crazy hillbilly stick-on beard I was wearing, and we'd filmed a segment which actually be the last part first, and then somebody came in and cut off a little bit of the beard. Then we filmed the next part, then cut off a little bit more, filmed the next part, and then we just simply put those together in reverse order, so it looks like the beard. So that's that's how the magic is done here in Hollywood.
Very cool. But your whole point in that video was so good about the fact that good SEO takes time. Because, we've seen one piece of content on our own site take up to 8 months to rank organically. So tell me more about why building SEO content is a long-term practice. Well, there's
a couple of things that I could talk about. The first of all is that SEO is both a science and an art. In fact, Eric Enga, our CEO, is the lead co-author on a book he wrote for O'Reilly Media called The Art of SEO. Wrote that along with Rand Fishkin several years ago. It's now in its third edition. Rand had to drop out for the third edition, but Eric wrote the bulk of that book. And the title is very, very intentional because most of us realize that there's a certain science to SEO. There are practices, there's testing that you do, but in the end, there's a lot of art to it. I hesitate to say guesswork because in a professional sense, it shouldn't be a pure guess. But I always like to describe it this way. It's a lot like the world of science apart from SEO, in that science is trying to uncover how the real world works. And, so much we know a lot, obviously. Science has taken us pretty far. We know a lot more than we used to know about the way things work. We also realize there's a ton that we don't know yet. There's still mysteries out there. And so, we set up tests, we set up studies and investigations to try to get data and try to come up with a hypothesis that is tested and hopefully can then develop into a theory. And in science, a theory isn't a guess anymore, but it is a guess that's now seems to be backed up by enough data and enough verification that we can begin to use it in the real world effectively. But then, even then, with a scientific theory, the investigation on it and the testing of it never stops because you can never be certain that you've got the whole story, and something else can come up that throws another angle on it. So I think SEO is very much the same, except our universe is Google or all the search engines, and we know a certain amount of what they do and how they work. We know a lot, actually, the fundamentals. But there's a ton we don't know because the algorithms that determine how things rank are largely hidden from us, and that's true. Intentional because if we, in the case of search marketing, if we knew how everything worked, obviously we could game it and manipulate it. So, but to do the best work for ourselves and for our clients, we have to try to be like those scientists and investigate to find out and do testing to find out, and develop theories about how it works that we can then continue to test and refine and see if we keep doing this, do we keep getting the same results? and what happens. So that's just one part of it. And I think the other part is that it's more complex than most people realize. There's, it's amazing to me that there are still a lot of people out there that think SEO is just a set of tricks. And if you know the right, if you know the right tricks, you just tick those off, you do them, and bam, you rank better. But that, that doesn't work at all, especially anymore.
Right.
I mean, Google especially has become so sophisticated and evaluates from so many different aspects. Another thing I see that sometimes frustrates me is, I'll see people proclaiming, do this and you'll rank better. And you say, well, why? How do you know that? Well, I did this one thing and, bammo, this one post started ranking or something like that. And they take that as evidence when it's not evidence at all, because we don't know. We don't ever know all the factors that go into something changing ranking. It's so complex, and a lot of the factors interact different ways with different queries. There's just so many circumstances. So it's complicated, and that doesn't mean undoable, but that's why good SEO takes time. And the final thing, there's a lot more I could say, but the last thing I'll say about this is that I think really good, effective SEO is a cumulative effort. The effects of it, of doing it right, they can take a long time to start showing any results, but once they do start showing results, if you're doing the right things and moving in the right directions, the good results begin to accumulate and build on each other. And you're setting up a foundation for long-term success that's hard to beat.
Yes, that's so good. I love that explanation. So to blend SEO and creating content for your brand, which we talked a little bit about the videos that you do, which is a great example of that. But how do you specifically write content that is both SEO focused, but also really builds your brand, not just focused on that keyword? Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because that's kind of my main focus these days. It's what I think about a lot. First of all, for marketing Stone Temple itself, but also for our clients and the contributions that I try to make into the industry through our content. But because I'm increasingly convinced that there is a vital link between SEO as we typically think of it and the value of a brand, and that it's much bigger than most people think. First of all, just by way of a little background on that, our approach, I think the approach of all truly professional SEOs these days, is to never think of SEO as some kind of isolated practice that sits apart from everything else in marketing, and it's just about optimizing your site and your on-page content and building links. And it's just about doing those things that we usually think about as SEO activities to try to gain ranking and build more organic traffic to your site. But to see it as part of what Eric Engel likes to call the digital marketing ecosystem, that SEO is just a part of all the other things that we think of in digital marketing, whether that's social media, it's content, it's outreach, it's relationship building, partnerships, all sorts of things that lead to the opportunities and the environment in which you are more likely to earn and gain the signals that affect your search rankings. Let me just give a quick, sort of simplified example of why I say that and how that works. So in most cases, the most valuable links that you can get are where you have produced something, let's say, a piece of content that's typically going to be the target on your site, that is noteworthy enough and helpful enough and useful enough and unique enough that other sites, especially other sites that are reputable and have some authority and some relevance to whatever you do, are going to link to it. They're going to want to, as they talk about a topic that's related, they want their audience to see that they have support for it. Your article, your piece of content becomes a support that they're going to link to. But they can't link to something they don't know about. So a vital part of SEO to me is, on one part is publicity. That's, social media, whatever other aims. We do, so obviously are very active in social media, but we also do direct outreach, sometimes to publications when we think we've got something significant. We've invested a lot of time and research into finding key media influencers. We also have worked hard to build lists for social media, for paid social media marketing, where we can target those kinds of people specifically, and influencers, where just in their normal social media activity, our content will come up in front of them, and they'll be more likely to talk about it. But the branding aspect comes in. So that's one thing, is just getting known, getting your stuff out there where people can see it. But the other is reputation, and I think that's where brand really comes in. So, again, for Stone Temple, something that's become very important for us is that over time, the reputation of our agency has grown, and the reputation for the types of big data, very carefully controlled studies that we do and publish publicly for everybody to benefit from. The other content that Eric and I write all over the web, the videos, all of these things, it builds reputation where people are more likely, they see something, maybe they'll just see it in a tweet or wherever, but they say like, oh, that's from Stone Temple. I want to read that. I can trust that, and I'll be, and then that's going to stick in my mind. And I'm writing an article, sometime later, I'm going to link to that content. So that's, there's many other ways, but that's kind of a simplified picture of the way that I think brand works for SEO. So building your brand, as I've said, we did a whole Here's Why video on this, that building your brand is an SEO strategy.
Yes. And that really ties into the whole long-term strategy. Everything you described, growing your reputation and being recognized as a brand that puts out amazing content, and therefore you get links and shares. And that's all long-term success strategy, which I love. It's not just a overnight practice that might disappear.
It really is. And I think, one of the myths out there, I'm always a little wary of surveys. I think they have their value, but when people are surveyed, when they're asked a question about behavior, oftentimes people will say that they do one thing or say they feel or think one way, but their actual behavior is quite different. And I think brand is that way. If you ask people in surveys, a lot of times, especially for like social media surveys, you'll say like, "Oh, I hate seeing brand content in my feed. I don't want to see things from brands. I want real people." That's what they'll say. But you watch their behavior, and in most cases, they do have some brands that they love, that they welcome the content from, that they look forward to seeing, because those brands are they've, from the branding side, the brands have done a good job of building an affinity with those people, where they feel something, and it may be quite unconscious, but they actually have similar feelings toward those brands that they would toward their best friends. And on the other side, it's simply that they provide content that's so useful or entertaining, whatever the goal is, to their audience, to their readers, that it becomes a welcomed and important part of what they consume. So, I think that it's so important to think about that. We try to take a bigger approach when we're approaching our content, whether that content is in the form of a blog post, a video, or even down to how we put forth our social media posts, that the most important thing we can do is to be trustworthy and useful to our audience, so that we're building a reputation. We don't need to do a hard sell on people. We don't need to push our products and services. If we're building a reputation where we're top of mind, and when people are ready to do something that relates to our business, we're going to be in play. We're going to be coming to their mind because we've already been helpful to them.
That's such a good point. That reminds me of an inbound.org conversation I saw. I think it was you that left the comment about how Eric Ng has never once relied on a sales call or a cold inquiry. He's never had to do that tactic, which was amazing. When I read that, I was like, really?
Yeah, and I don't want want to hasten because I say those kind of things, and then I have friends who are in sales and they in outbound sales, and
Oh.
the impression say like you're denigrating our whole profession. I say, no. I totally realize there's a time and a place and a value for outbound sales, and just to define those terms, just in case anyone in the audience is
Right.
not familiar. Generally, by outbound we mean where you are pushing out, you are actively contacting prospects, people who might be prospects for your business, and trying to get their attention, trying to get a conversation with them, trying to get them to sign up or respond or whatever. That's outbound. Inbound is where you are trying to create things around your brand and what you do, especially with your content, that are so attractive and interesting and useful to your audience that your brand becomes top of mind. And when they are ready, when they're looking, saying like, okay, we need this service or this product, who are we going to talk to, that you become somebody they want to reach out to. So yeah, and it's Eric Enga, by the way. I know it's a Norwegian name. It's not
Sorry.
immediately. No, that's okay. Nobody knows how to pronounce it. So Enga. With short E's, but Eric, he built this business from literally a desk in his bedroom by doing just that, by producing great content. He was blogging fantastic stuff for years when nobody was reading it, but he was putting that content out there, and then being opportunistic to a lot of what happened for Eric was building relationships, going to a lot of conferences, and getting opportunities to meet with top influencers and even people from Google like Matt Cutts, and convincing them that he was somebody worthwhile talking to, and getting often exclusive interviews with them, or interviews before other people were, that caught the attention of the industry, and people began to link to it and talk about it, and so yeah, it. His reputation grew from there. So we've never had to do cold emails or cold calls or anything like that. The business comes to us.
That is great. And I noticed one way you were also talking about that Stone Temple has really grown their business is through guest blogging, which is another amazing avenue of creating content that builds your brand. That's very heavy of a channel for us as well in terms of traffic coming back to us and finding us and choosing to buy our content, because the content we put out is actually really good. It sells that naturally. Mm-hmm. So tell me how you've been able to do that, just build yourself through guest blogging.
Yeah, Eric calls it OPA, other people's audiences, the value of that. Obviously, there's a trick and there's a balance, because you want to be producing good, valuable content on your own site. That's very important. That's your anchor content. That's where you get the direct value, because if you're doing a good job, that content is attracting people to your site, and your site is where you're going to be able to sell them once they're there. So that's very valuable. But the trick is that, especially if you're just starting out or you're relatively new, you probably don't yet have the authority and the visibility that people are going to do that. So it feels like kind of a chicken and the egg kind of conundrum. How do I get people here and to know me? So one way to do that is by finding opportunities to publish guest posts on good, relevant sites, relevant to your business, that already are established and have an audience. And that gives you visibility, because now, as Eric says, you're exposed to their audience. They already have a big audience. You're getting exposed to them. And if you do it consistently, and the biggest value for that Eric and I have always pursued, is getting a column where you're writing, say, once a month. Then there's a regularity. People begin to recognize your name. Right. And they want to follow you. One little thing that Eric always says is like that speaking at a conference is a social media activity. You see that because he says that because he and I have both noticed that, like, every time we speak at a conference, immediately afterward, if we go check, especially for Twitter with conferences, we'll see our follower count take a big jump. People will follow somebody that they've seen and heard, and now there's a personal connection, and that person helped them, or their content at the conference is really good. So in the same way, if you're exposed on these other sources, people are more likely to follow you or to start to recognize your name and want to see your content. And if if they have business interests that intersect with yours, to want to get in touch and maybe do business. So just that exposure that gets you in front of them. Another way to do that is partnerships, finding opportunities. We build these. This is one of the things we do for a lot of our clients. Is we don't seek to just get one-off opportunities to create a piece of content and then pitch it to a publication that's relevant to our client's business as a one-off, but we try to build a relationship where we say, like, hey, we can, you really like this content. It did a great job for you. Got a lot of shares. Brought a lot of people to your site. We got a lot more ideas. We could produce more. In many cases, that publishing site will say, like, yeah, bring it on. And now you've got real value going.
Huh. That's a great approach. Yes. Ongoing columns. I found success with that as well, instead of just the one-off guest blog on a publication. So that's a great tip.
Yeah, because anything you do one-off, you got to remember is that as soon as you've done it, the next day you're back to zero. You got to start scratching it.
That's true.
Whereas if you get a partnership or a column or something like that, it's what I need to keep referring to phrases that Eric uses, but Eric Enga calls a sustainable competitive advantage. A sustainable competitive advantage is where you get in a situation where you've built something that has longevity to it and that keeps reaping. It takes a lot more effort to get there in the beginning, but once you get there, it keeps on reaping rewards, and most of the cost of that is in getting it started. So now your costs become very low per unit, whereas if you're always just going for one-off opportunities, you have all of the upfront cost again. And by cost, I don't just mean money. I mean time invested and effort and all those things. You have to recreate that for every new effort. So, begin thinking. I think one of the best tips that we could give your audience here today is try to begin thinking strategically in terms of a sustainable competitive advantage. What are things you could do that might be a lot harder to achieve and get started, but that if you got that opportunity, it would continue to reap rewards down the line for months or years to come, with only a minimal continued investment.
That is great. I love that. Well, thank you so much for being here, Mark, and sharing all of this. Before you go, where can we find you and Stone Temple?
Well, Stone Temple's easy. It's stonetemple.com. And just want to tell everybody, depending on when they hear this, we are working on an entirely new design of our website that we're very excited about. We hope to have out by maybe mid-November. So if you're hearing after that time and we've done our job right, maybe you can go see our handiwork. But the present site is like we look at it and say, it really doesn't represent fully who we are. But you can find all the content there, the videos we've talked about, the studies that we do are all very accessible right from the homepage of stonetemple.com. And then for me personally, one of the joys I have both of my presence online and my rather unique last name is that if you Google Mark Traphagen, Traphagen, you'll find all my social media outlets right on the first page of Google.
Well, thank you so much, Mark, for being on the show today. Really appreciate it.
Oh, my joy. It was fun. Great questions. Stuff I love to talk about. And I know we could have talked for hours about it.
I agree.
Hopefully gave your audience a good taste and some things to think about and chew on.
Yes, for sure.
And get some good work done.
Thanks so much for listening to the Write Podcast. For more episodes, go to expresswriters.com/write-podcast. I had an awesome See you on the next one. Today's episode with Mark. You can find him on Twitter at Mark Traphagen. I definitely encourage you to go check out the Here's Why digital marketing video shorts with Mark and Eric over at Stone Temple Consulting. Going back to our conversation at the beginning when I was talking to Mark about video storytelling, that is actually the series that we were referencing. You can see them at stonetemple.com. Go to the media page and go to Here's Why with Mark and Eric. Or you can grab the direct links straight from today's show notes. And now, a message from our sponsor. Meet me and 5 of my staff members from Express Writers this November 2nd at the SEJ Summit in New York City. This is a one-day conference tailored for search marketers, featuring several experts from Google and other industry experts, speaking in a full day of 11 sessions and 6 Q&As. I'll be there giving away 25 free copies of my bestseller, So You Think You Can Write? The Definitive Guide to Successful Online Writing. Grab 15% off your tickets now using exclusive Write Podcast coupon code EXWSEJ at bit.ly/SEJ savings. You can also check out the podcast recap to grab the link and coupon code. See you in New York City this November 2nd.